Welcome to our blog and live on eating disorders. This is going to be a pretty broad topic with lots of information to cover, so this will be good. We're excited about it. A lot to cover today.
I should tell you that I am a wordy writer on the best of days, but on this one, this is personal in some ways to me, and I did a lot of research, a lot of homework, and I tried to put it here so that you didn't have to spend the 3 weeks doing research and homework that I did if you ever need this information.
That's right. So there's quite a few eating disorders that we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about anorexia. We're going to be talking about bulimia. We're going to be talking about binge eating disorder. We're going to talk about pica. And I hope I say that one right.
Oh, this is today's eating disorder, orthorexia.
And
very
then
strange thing.
Avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, which is also referred to as AFRID, and compulsive exercise. So we're going to talk about those eating disorders. We are going to give you some essential oil things to help. A lot of these, these are pretty serious disorders, and you need to get some energetic intervention.
You need to understand there are emotional drivers to this one, as well as physical drivers.
You have to clear
and
both.
They need to be dealt with if you're ever to win on this thing.
We are going to talk about the signs, because a lot of times people will go out of their way to hide these disorders. And so as a family member, you need to be able to recognize that it is a problem. In order to get help, first you have to recognize that there's an issue. So this is going to be a really interesting one, and a lot of things. We can't possibly cover all of the stuff that's going to be in the blog in one live, so we're going to refer to it a lot of times, and that will come out later this afternoon. If you are not subscribed to our blog, you can do that by going to butterflyexpressions.net, and you can subscribe to the blog, and it will be there probably about 5 minutes after we're done with this. So you'll have all the notes that you possibly could ever want right there. So we're going to start with
a couple of statistics. Let's go up a little bit. Right. I like stats. Right. There's a St. Luke's Hospital is kind of a unique website, because when they talk about a topic, they do talk about essential oils and homeopathics and things. So it makes a good resource. And there was a statistic I pulled off there that I tried to find yesterday. So if that article is still there, I couldn't find it. But they estimated that 3% of U.S. adolescents have an eating disorder. Now, when I read that, I thought, well, 3%, that's not that much. But that's 3 out of every 100 children in your high school or junior high are seriously emotionally imbalanced enough to be doing themselves physical and mental harm, even to the point of death.
That was a study that was done in 2011 by the National Institute of Mental Health.
So, a valid study. What scared me, I guess, being the generation that I am, I remember Karen Carpenter, a very great musician who literally slowly starved herself to death with anorexia. Yep. She died of physical disorders, kidney failure, but they were a product of her anorexia. And, and the fact that eating disorders now affect children between the ages of 11 and 13.
That's when
And some of the statistics were that scared me was that 81% of 10-year-olds have a fear of becoming overweight. And yet a good percentage of them do anyway,
42% of third grade girls wish they were thinner. That's
third grade, 8 and 9-year-olds. So we need to get a handle on this somehow. Okay. Whatever in our culture is driving this, we need to get a handle on.
Now, there's a couple of eating disorders that we are not going to be talking about. There's one called purging disorder that we're not going to go into a whole lot, but it's basically where people try to control their weight and their body shape using multiple techniques. So they'll be anorexic, they'll be bulimic, and they'll mix and match the two.
Laxatives and diuretics.
Those are part of that
or
picture.
Even excessive exercising, which we will talk about, and don't you dare get rude.
So it wasn't enough different from things we were covering that we didn't go in and cover purging disorder. There's also one called night eating syndrome, which we're not going to go into heavily.
Except to say people wake up in the middle of the night, go upstairs and empty the fridge, But yep. It's a sudden hunger on waking, which is an odd one.
So yeah, and if that was an issue, I would probably be looking at homeopathic help to try to.
Probably be looking at psychiatry.
And psychiatry, yeah. So those are two we're not going to go into, but we're going to start with anorexia. We're first going to try to cover a little bit of what it is and how to recognize it in your family members.
And a lot of what we will say about anorexia applies to the other eating disorders too, which mostly in the causative factors and the things to watch for. So. obviously, there's a poor self-image, but I found a little picture online the other day, and it showed this skinny little person standing on a scale, but in her mind, in the little blurb over her head, she was fat, just grossly. And it said, please don't weigh your self-esteem. And I thought, what a description of an eating disorder. Not only their whole self-image is based on what they think they look like, not even reality. And that's a number one driver.
They don't see the reality of it. And a lot of times anorexia is one that will have other disorders. They'll have multiples. They'll be mostly anorexic, but they'll also have a tendency to be bulimic, and throw up,
or to purge, or to,
and so
all these other kinds of
things. There's typically more than one at play. So
another one I wanted to mention was a need for control.
Yeah.
If many things in their life are beyond their control, food is the one thing they can maintain control of. And then there's the family pressure to be perfect. You have to imagine that one.
This one is often driven by sexual abuse.
Well, and not even. I mean,
not always.
But middle of the road. You got to be absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So physical signs.
Oh, physical signs. That's all you're going to give me on emotion, huh? All right.
Well, yeah. So a body mass under 30% below normal. And there's apps and things online now where you can do BMIs on your kids. You can put in their weight. We did this on my kids a few months ago, and they thought it was great fun plugging in their weights and their heights, and whether they're male or female, and their ages. And make sure you find one that covers ages, because adolescents and adults, it's not the same thing. And so you need one that covers age. That's huge. My one daughter, I thought that she was under a typical BMI until we found that one was for adolescents, and it put her a lot closer to normal. She is on the skinny side, but she runs track, and no matter what we do, we can't get her to gain weight. But she's not 30% below normal. She's like in the bottom percentile of normal, but she's normal.
Okay, so I have one more statistic. Okay. I hesitate, so maybe I shouldn't, but statistically, there is a genetic factor that plays in here too. The reason I hesitate is because I don't want to give anybody an excuse to use that, rather than clean up their gut so they have serotonin and melatonin in there and stuff. But there have been studies that show that twins separated at birth, if one becomes anorexic, there's a 50% chance the other one will too, even if they never have contact with one another. So there's a lot at play in these disorders. Please don't use that as an excuse not to clean up your health and get the nutrition you need and deal with your emotional issues.
So physical signs would be that low BMI, severe depression, suicidal thoughts, low potassium levels, dizziness, especially on standing. If you have a kid that's constantly dizzy, you could wonder, are they getting enough to eat? Are they starving themselves? Difficulty sleeping. And then you got the ones that are brought on by malnutrition, like the thinning hair and the brittle nails and dry skin and always being cold hands and feet. Every single one of these things can be brought on by something else. It's the combination of all of them that you have to go, I wonder.
Well, it's enough to make you take a look and watch eating habits for a week or two. If you see more than 2 or 3 of these at any given time,
start watching and see, are they eating enough? And then, of course, the list is much longer than this in the blog, but
oh yes,
we don't want to keep you here.
We don't want to spend the entire day here.
So there are some psychological and behavioral symptoms that you also want to watch for. And she's already talked about the first one being a badly distorted sense of self. If they have a self-esteem issue, you want to deal with that anyway. But is it affecting how much they eat? Is it affecting how much they weigh? Is it affecting how much nutrition they're taking in?
And the one there's a couple of, but being preoccupied with food, that for most of us, that means, eating food is comfort, but we're talking ways to avoid eating, always being too busy, running out the door to school without breakfast, avoiding the word party because they'll be expected to sit with the family and eat. There's a lot of preoccupation ways to avoid eating food.
And they will refuse to acknowledge it.
The one common thing I have seen in every eating disorder I have ever seen is they refuse to acknowledge the illness. They are fine.
Even after you've figured it out and hey, we've got an issue here, they will, you can point it out to me and show it to them. Oh, no, it's just this or it's just that. They will refuse to acknowledge it. And eventually that will lead to serious depression and even suicidal thoughts.
I have seen times where I have sat down with nutrition books and educated and read with and made up a week's food plan and they see it, they understand it, they can spout it all back to me. They can tell me what herbs and what foods have everything in it. They can keep track for 2 weeks of what they're eating. And you look around in another month and they're right back to the same eating tendencies they were before.
So as a family member, you should be watching for them, skipping meals, making excuses not to eat, refusing to eat in public, withdrawing from friends and activities, planning and preparing as a ruse elaborate meals for others, and then they don't eat them.
They would do.
Yeah, that's it.
I've seen that one in person.
You think of them and you think of food because they're fixing all these wonderful things and they're taking cookies to the neighbors. But if you pay attention, they're not eating the batter when they're cooking it, and they're not eating the cookies when they come out of the oven. They're involved in the food, but they're not actually.
And just like those of us who put on a little weight, we think multiple layers hide the weight. They will use layers to hide the weight loss and to keep themselves warm.
Yeah, and they'll constantly be weighing themselves. Layers is an absolute trigger. They're cold. They're cold even in the summer. So, all right, compulsive eating and exercise also comes hand in hand with this one. Now, I should warn you guys, we are going to cover things, essential oils that help with these things, tinctures. A lot of this is controlled with nutrition, and a lot of it is emotional.
And so, herbs are nutrition.
Herbs are nutrition. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover. But the thing with herbs is because they're nutrition, and because a lot of them, they have the same emotional drivers, a lot of your suggestions for fixing these things or helping with them, they're the same. And so to cover anorexia and then tell you what would fix it, and then to cover bulimia and tell you what would fix it, would be very repetitive. So we're actually going to get to that at the end.
I have broken it down a little at the end that way.
We have.
No, we're not going to do that one by one all the way through here. We'll never get
So our goal for this live is to get it so that you recognize these disorders in yourself, in your friends, in your family, in your neighbors, and then you can go to the blog and find those answers. We will cover them a little bit at the end. But basically, we're going to try to teach you how to navigate this blog so that it can be of help to you for years to come. Not that you wouldn't want to watch our live over and over again, but it'll be faster to just use it as an index.
I swear I'd never do lives. What am I doing here?
Who knows? All right. So bulimia is different than anorexia, but it does have some of the same symptoms.
And some of the same causative factors.
It does. A lot of the causative factors are the same, but it's attending to eat and then make an excuse to go to the bathroom and throw it back up.
Or constant use of laxatives.
Or laxatives to get it to run through the system.
I find myself doing that. I give myself a treat, so I run on my treadmill in the evening as well. Oh, stop it.
You have compulsive exercise disorder. I'm convinced of it.
Well, yeah, I did until I crashed last month.
So,
told you no rude remarks. No.
Oh, sorry. So even though they're ingesting enough calories, their body is starving for nutrition because they're not allowing it to stay in their bodies long enough for their body to get any nutritional value out of it. The other problem with bulimia is if they're causing themselves to throw up a lot, they're going to damage that esophagus. They're going to damage the lining of their stomach. All that acid coming back up is going to do a lot of damage.
One thing with bulimia too is it's an impulse control thing. They see that they want to eat it, they do, or they're out to dinner and they eat 4 times more than they need. It's an impulse control issue, and you will see that in other areas of their life besides food.
It's often brought on by being constantly criticized in either their professional life or their personal life.
Anger, an ability to express anger, or not in a position where they can. Bulimia is often accompanied by the self-mutilation type things. There's a really deep disgust of themselves there somehow.
And there usually be a history of depression.
Obsessive compulsive disorders.
Okay, health risks. This was there's a long list, but I covered some of them. Not even meaning to, but there'll be symptoms that are brought on by the repeated vomiting, and that
or the repeated use of laxatives. You'll have constipation, diarrhea, hemorrhoids, and eventually heart problems because of the electrolyte imbalances. And that's true of every eating disorder. As they throw their minerals and electrolytes off, you're looking at severe blood sugar issues,
malnutrition,
heart problems. These are not fads. They're not jokes. They're not something a child will grow out of. They're serious.
But dental erosion is a frequent.
Heart issues are the leading cause of death among bulimic patients, according to St. Luke's Hospital.
Wow.
We're talking serious, okay?
Yeah, the sore throats because of the regurgitating the acidic contents of their stomach, dental erosion.
Hemorrhage in the eyes and ears and nose, erosion of the esophagus and vocal cords.
It's a nasty one.
We're talking Okay, aspiration even of the acidic stomach contents damaging the lungs.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Cancer epidemiology, 6-fold increase in the likelihood of developing esophageal cancer if you've been hospitalized for an eating disorder that causes vomiting. So
one thing that really surprised me is that the emotions of pregnancy can cause this, and women who have already had poor self-image or worried about gaining weight, as that baby grows and they watch themselves get bigger, that can trigger a relapse or even a beginning of bulimia.
That doubling in blood volume.
And that's a scary time to be doing an eating disorder because you need
Yes,
so much more nutrition, not less. So
bulimia, I'm more afraid of that one than anorexia. You probably got that impression,
yeah,
right?
Bulimia is very, very scary. And it can also be very difficult to spot as a family member. It's harder to see than anorexia.
It is, because they tend to sneak off in the bathroom and throw up. I mean, it's not like they're,
So both anorexia and bulimia have self-hate issues involved. There will be poor self-esteem and there will be I don't like myself. Often it can be tied to abuse of some sort. Okay, lovely. Moving on.
We've had enough of that subject for today.
These are hard, and studying them was hard. And
I've seen more than a few of them over the years.
Yes, me too. So a binge eating disorder. Ooh. We all do this occasionally. We eat too much at Thanksgiving.
That's not the same thing.
This is what we're talking about. This is people who do this on a regular basis. They eat too much.
An inability to stop eating when you know you're going to be horribly, horribly uncomfortable afterward.
Yeah.
And eating, I think stress eating fits here in a milder form.
Yep.
Yeah. So
it's using food as a way to cope with unwanted emotions. Usually high amounts of stress.
Sometimes there's chemical and hormonal messages happening in the brain. If you can't get a handle on this one with the things we suggest, you probably need to seek help.
Mm-hmm. So. Many people who have had a binge eating disorder will say that emotions were anger, sadness, even boredom, which I don't understand boredom. So I'll just admit I've never been bored in my life.
My mother had a cure for boredom.
It's work.
But booties.
Yeah, I've got so many things I want to do. I can't even understand boredom.
I don't understand that word either.
But if you do have a child who's constantly bored and overweight, I would look at perhaps that's two.
My mother had a cure for arguing children too.
Yeah.
Would you like me to?
I'm having some issues. I love my teenagers.
My mother said the greatest thing that ever happened to the family was when they built 2 bathrooms into the house. That way, if children fought, they could each go clean a toilet. It was
I like
effective.
it. I have 2 bathrooms.
Yes, it was quite effective as a detriment. Mother didn't use garbage.
But we digress.
Yes. All right, where are we going next?
A lot of times, though, binge eating disorders was brought on by families family gatherings are around food, and that's part of our heritage, and it's part of our spending time together. But if there's too much of emphasis on that, it can actually set them up for that disorder. So,
yep.
Okay. It can also be a learned response to stress. Food makes me feel better. Okay.
I think I have.
So the symptoms of it and ways to look for it would be eating large amounts of foods all the time or over a period of several hours and never getting full. Eating when you know you're not hungry.
Eating alone and in secret,
Yep.
You know you're doing something you're going to regret later, but you do it anyway.
Eating even though you're already miserable and uncomfortable and full. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The health risks associated with this are heart disease. It's the number one for most eating disorders.
Thing,
yeah.
Although
chest pain. It can actually to the point where you're dizzy and fall. Shortness of breath because you're putting pressure up on those lungs.
Type 2 diabetes.
So
There's
much.
a link there too.
Yep.
So. Arthritis, surprisingly enough,
I
think that kind of fits with any of them if there's nutritional issues going on. So.
Yep. So as a family and friends that you should watch for are stealing food, hoarding food, constantly finding food in their bedrooms. That would be a tip off. If they create lifestyle rituals in order to make time, an opportunity for eating large amounts of food. But it can also be finding ways to avoid eating with family so that they don't see how much food they're actually eating, so they eat later by themselves. All right.
Once again, the hiding of it is they just don't do that. So with this one, I want to talk for just a minute about balancing blood sugar. And it applies to all of them, but even more so with this one. Because there's a lot of research and statistics that indicate that this binge eating disorder is triggered by a drop in blood sugar. And my experience is that if you can teach people to balance their blood sugar, carry a handful of almonds, do the basic things to balance their blood sugar, then you're going to have almost done away with this. It's that sudden hunger, that sudden need for energy, that drives the binge eating, and then the emotional hatred of themselves for having done so triggers the rest of it.
So we are going to talk for a minute here about some oils and some things that will help to balance blood sugar.
Before she starts, we always think pancreas when we think balancing blood sugar, but your liver and your adrenal glands play just as large a role.
So Endo Relief is a good one, and Energy is a good one. There's some singles. My favorite is dill, and I absolutely hate the smell of pickles, and I don't like to eat pickles, but I actually like the smell of dill. And
I carried a dill in my purse for half my life since I've known about these, because it will stabilize the sugar, and then you go and eat something sensible instead of the first 5 donuts you pass.
Emotionally, Whispering Hope is an awesome one for this, but cypress, dill, helichrysum, and even lemon are great ones to carry.
Cedarwood is almost as good at stabilizing blood sugar as dill, and you might like the smell of it better.
Dill works for me. I used to do hyperglycemia as a teenager, so I don't anymore. But as my kids have come into these teenage years, most of them haven't done hyperglycemia like I did, but dill has been something I've pulled out from time to time, and I don't mind the smell of it. So I don't know.
So those are, I've listed them under pancreas, although they're probably many things besides pancreas.
Yep. But with blood sugar, you're also worrying about adrenal glands and the liver. So there are lists of oils for both of those. The best ones for adrenal glands and the best ones for the liver. Endo Relief comes up for both pancreas and adrenals. Endo Relief is amazing.
It's an endocrine organ.
And the liver,
Heart Song.
There is quite a list.
Heart Song, the emotional thing there, and life force and trust
and letting go. It depends on whether it's anger driven.
You bet. There's so many.
You need to read them all, and we've linked them so that it's very simple. You can click.
You can read it from the blog.
You can read them right from
the blog.
And you don't need them all. You need to pick 1 or 2 that fit your child, your situation the best.
And do remember as parents too that sometimes nagging your teenager to do these things, you got to work the nutrition into the meals that you see that they eat. You wear the oils yourself and give them extra hugs, diffuse them in the house, dump them on their pillow. I mean, come on, get creative, Mom and Dad.
And herbs are a great way too, because while you're turning the eating habits around, you're increasing the amount of nutrition that they're getting. And so any of the herbs listed, we've listed burdock and licorice, milk thistle, red clover, all of them are very high in nutrients. And you can read about different ones affect different body systems. You can do a couple of them. There are several formulas as well. There's a cascara, juniper, and raspberry myrrh that are amazing for balancing
to stabilize blood sugar. That's because they hit they hit different body organs like the kidneys, and they work.
So depending on whether it's pancreas, adrenal glands, liver, and it's probably a bit of all 3. There are lists of herbs in the blog for all of those. But yeah, balancing the blood sugar is often key to turning around those impulses. So for eating. Okay. Pica, which is a compulsive eating one of items that have absolutely no nutritional value. People who eat chalk or dirt or paper.
First time I saw this, I'd been married about a year, and I babysat the 2-year-old daughter of she wasn't even quite 2, of our bishop, and the mother informed me when she dropped her off. She dropped her off with some newspaper, and she said she loves to eat newspaper. She'll be happy as a clam if you just let her play in the newspaper. And being me, that set me off to see why in the world a 2-year-old would eat newspaper. Was it the ink? What was the story here? And, I learned that children are more likely to develop this. And it has been my personal belief for the last 45 years, that it is more often than not a nutritional deficiency.
It's typically minerals.
They are looking for something they are not getting.
It's iron, it's zinc, copper, potassium. If you muscle test, get a list of minerals and test which ones they are nutrition deficient in. If you don't muscle test, the Min tincture or Min tea is a great way to fill most of those minerals.
And oddly enough, it's like the pica, even though they're eating all these strange things trying to get the nutritional deficiency, they're not filling it. And you'll find in children developmental disabilities, they don't grow as fast as they should. I mean, they're not getting nutrition.
So people
you don't get nutrition from chalk.
People who are deficient in B vitamins will crave chocolate. Chocolate contains B vitamins. But if you are B vitamin deficient, you're probably also magnesium deficient, and you can't absorb the B vitamins without fixing your magnesium. So no matter how much chocolate you eat and how fat you get, you're not fixing that B vitamin
deficiency.
It's the same thing with the weird things that they crave. Some of those things might be chalk, dirt, glue, soap, hair, even cigarette ashes or pieces of metal. It is the strangest things that they will come up with that they like to eat. I don't know if this one fits into there, but it kind of sort of does. I had a child who would crave butter. And she would eat butter by the spoonful, and I think that one is actually fats. It's omega-3s. It's fat, nutritional, healthy fats.
Yep.
So, and butter is a good one of those.
I started stirring omega-3s into the butter, and you quit very quickly when we filled.
I remember eating butter, and my kids have inherited that apparently.
So. There's a couple of unfortunate things. I believe that children should play in the dirt. It kind of helps their immune system. But on the other hand, if they're eating the sand pile stuff and the cat's playing there too, it's a good way to pick up parasites. So
yeah, we should get dirty, but we should also clean back up in the end.
And eating it is not the plan.
Eating it's not the plan.
But one of the things I have seen is that sometimes this pica manifests as a need for certain textures, such as the crunching of ice cubes or just different things like that. And some of those things, I've seen kids even chomp on small pebbles as, now what a way to ruin your teeth. It's just not good. So anyway, so health risks. Well, let's see, there's the poisoning yourself from
eating paint chips or glue. There's always that. Parasites. And if you're eating dirt, you could get parasites and other nasty things.
Some things will block the human intestinal system. They can't break down small pebbles and rocks, and constant constipation or diarrhea, or even perforation of the colon or small intestine.
And there's always choking.
And broken teeth and mouth injuries. I mean, yeah.
So it's a pretty simple
list. Newspaper was pretty mild, wasn't it? First time I ran into this.
So things to watch for in your family. This one's pretty simple to see. If they're sitting at the table eating a whole square of butter, something's off.
So, something's out of balance here. Yeah.
So yeah, and that one takes some research. You have to figure out, okay, they're eating this because they're nutritionally deficient in what? And then fill that nutritional hole. And a great way to do that while you're trying to figure it out is with the mint tincture or the mint tea. And I think the tea is actually easier to absorb if it's an absorption issue. A lot of kids won't drink tea. I've turned that around in one of my kids who is terribly thin. She's also extremely tall, and it's partly from just growing so fast. But mineral tea, she will drink it if I bought stevia sweetener, and she likes the berry one and the lemon one, and we just kind of alternate back and forth, and she'll drink it with a couple drops of stevia.
And sometimes different herbs pull differently in both minerals in water than they do in an alcohol base. I found with pregnant women, for a while we thought, well, we'll just get them to do the tincture. Well, number one, they didn't get enough water, and number two, there were certain nutrients that don't pull in the tincture form. So the strange one, orthorexia. I consider it
not really an eating disorder yet, but we
it will be
it one.
Well, and it's because it just hasn't been around long enough to make the books yet. It's become the subject of studies. It'll get there, but what we're talking here is an obsessive focus on healthy eating, and to the point that it disrupts normal lifestyle. And I'm going to tell you a little story here, and hope nobody that recognizes themselves.
I think you need to go into it a little more. I mean, there are people who choose not to eat meat. There are people who choose not to, I mean,
there's nothing wrong with choosing to eat healthy food. The part of that sentence that I skipped over really fast was seriously disruptive of a normal lifestyle.
Can't eat anything, because they've severely limited themselves. So, I mean, a person who gives up meat needs to figure out other sources of protein. A person who gives up bread, which I don't think anyone should do, that's just my own personal crusade at the moment.
She's been studying whole wheat.
I have been studying whole wheat, and I haven't eaten bread in years, and just in a few weeks of going back to eating bread, I feel better. I weigh less, which is insane because bread has so many carbs. I bought into this apparently, but whole wheat is amazing. That's a discussion for a whole nother blog. But anyways,
an example of
if you're going to give up a food and not eat it anymore, you need to figure out what nutrition you're giving up.
Yeah, to compensate. I had a group of class members a few years ago, and in that day we kind of pooled our resources for lunch. Everybody brought something, and I quit doing that because people would disappear from class about 11 o'clock to go make amazing things to impress each other with their cooking skills. But I had one particular group, and they literally got out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning so they could chop up all of their little vegetables and prepare everything absolutely from scratch. And then about 10:30, I'd lose the class members because they were back in the kitchen part, cooking. And I thought, what?
To show each other.
It wasn't. It was the health, the absolute everything grown in the garden, washed, scratched, cut up. You don't use a knife on your lettuce because, it took them literally all day to make themselves breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And most of them, when they were homeschooled, it was a homeschool group, so they had a bunch of kids. And I thought, if it takes that long to feed just themselves, how are they surviving at home? And so I kind of watched myself for that, because we kind of went down those roads.
We do.
We made everything. We made cheese. We made,
and
we did it all from scratch.
It's important to eat healthy. It is.
But sometimes there's a few other things to do too, like read a book.
People that suffer from orthorexia, they don't focus on losing weight. Their entire self-worth and identity is on how healthy and how well they're eating. And it's usually their diets are very strict and they're self-imposed.
Obsession is the word. If your focus on healthy eating is not obsessional, you're probably fine. So remember that.
They'll have regimes,
normal lifestyle,
dietary regimes, and that's what we're talking about.
And there tends to be a real tendency to be very critical of people who do not see nutrition as they do.
Yep. And interestingly enough, there will be severe weight loss. There will be malnutrition.
They are concentrating on food every minute, but because they've eliminated food groups, they're actually nutritionally deficient.
And mood swings, irritability, anger. Those are
anxiety,
all signs of it.
This is a nasty one that we see more and more and more of. Like I said, it's going to make the list of mental disorders.
Right, so we just did it from the beginning.
And I like this: guilt, self-punishment when they fail to live a clean or healthy diet.
Yeah, which really messes with their self-esteem, because they set impossible standards for themselves, and then they're guilty when they don't live those impossible standards.
Social isolation or withdrawal. They can't, go.
They can't go anywhere because there won't be anything they can eat.
Eventually, they don't even associate with people who aren't smart enough to eat better. It becomes a social isolation thing too.
So, and those are, pretty much the things you're watching for as family: fixation on food, its quality, its purity, and then the signs of malnutrition.
I just have to comment on this one, because when we first started down this walk to fix my husband's health as young 25-year-olds, and there were so many, and the midwife that we had this whole list of foods that you never ate, and watermelon was on it.
Wow,
you just must eat watermelon, eat the seeds. They at least had some nutrition.
Wow,
there were so
watermelon
many.
Is so full of potassium.
I know, it's a wonderful food.
And it's salt, and you've just fixed your electrolyte problem.
It's like my husband got just a little obsessional about this stuff until someone gave him the reasons why you shouldn't eat potatoes.
Oh, no.
And no, that didn't work. No, potatoes did not get crossed off the list.
Potatoes are like my dad's bread. It's his staff of life.
I always knew how long I'd been gone by the number of French fry plates I found in the sink. Breakfast, lunch. It was, no, it's a compulsive, obsessive disorder. It's not wanting to eat well. Don't mistake what we're said here.
Yeah. So. And AFRID.
This is a similar thing.
Avoidant restrictive food intake. It is similar, but it does have differentiating factors. So this one's more often seen in children, and it's children who don't like to try new foods. They've got their select few things that they like to eat, and that's the things that you fix them over and over because they don't want to try anything new.
Has nothing to do with weight loss or body image. I think it might be a textural, or I think, they're hypersensitive. Yeah, I have some little people that are that way. And it's not too bad as long as you can get them to try enough foods from enough food groups to stay nutritionally sound.
Yep.
So,
and just because they don't want to try it doesn't mean they don't get to.
They don't have to. Yes. What is for dinner? Take it or leave it, and leave it is not going to fly.
Sometimes they have to try it 2 or 3 times before they no longer hate it. And that's hard as a parent. You make them try it. They absolutely detested it. So the next few days later, you make him try it again, and they absolutely detest it. But after 3 or 4 times, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." Then you start to think, okay, it's a sensory thing. They don't like a new texture. They don't like a new taste. They will adjust. And as a parent, you need to get them to adjust to as many as possible, because once they're adults, they'll make their own choices, and it's out of your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So
just need to do
get
that.
them used to as many as you can, and work on that, because there are emotional corrections that you can do to work on that sensory disorder as well, and that's part of it. So
I think too, sometimes where I have seen this particular thing a lot is this fear of choking.
Yep.
When you have a premature baby, or a baby that went in with any kind of a thing, hospitalized, had tubes down their throat, you will often see this. The fear of choking makes them just absolutely paranoid about different types of food. And then advertising. I was looking at just kind of paying attention, knowing this blog was coming up, and you open Facebook or you open your email. I get a lot of emails from different sites, research sites, and there's always, yesterday it was spinach. Spinach is the latest toxic food. A few days before that, it was boiled eggs were going to make you have bloating in your stomach, And there's always something going on in the media telling you that the food you eat is not good for you. And our children are bombarded with this constantly. So fear of a particular food making them sick.
My last pregnancy was turned around about 10 weeks into it by upping my salt intake. I had a really hard time getting my mind around that. And I thought that I was aware of all the fads, and I don't buy into them. And they told me I needed to up my salt intake, and they told me all the things it would do for my health and how I would feel if I would do it. I can't do that. I'm pregnant.
4 generations have been told not to.
They finally convinced me to do it.
She's the daughter of a midwife who pushes salt.
I should have known better.
Come on.
But I was surprised how quickly I turned it around. I met a group of strangers at this class where I was told to eat salt. And then I went home and I increased my salt intake for 7 straight days. When I went back, several of the people in the class said, "You don't even look like the same person."
Yeah, it was. You solved my headaches,
and all I did was increase my salt.
Solved my little vision disturbances leading into migraines by telling me to use salt. You thought I would.
And I ate salt. I just wasn't watching the amount of salt. So,
yep.
Yeah, it's a major electrolyte in your body.
Put in a plug for good salt here. We're not talking that white stuff. Okay.
Afrid needs to be seriously considered. Is this an actual eating disorder? Or are they just picky eaters? Don't label your kid with
obsessive is the word I want you to keep repeating in your head here.
They're just picky eaters. And so it's the same solution. You still need to work on.
No.
I would just be helping fix the emotional things, and homeopathics are a great way to do that. Bach flowers, which we've talked about a few times if you've joined us, and we're going to get down into that here pretty soon. But work on the solution rather than work on labeling them. It doesn't matter if they're a picky eater, if they have Afrid. The trick is to get enough nutrition into them.
All right, now we're going to talk about 1 second worth of compulsive exercise disorder.
She doesn't want to do this one in depth because...
Sure I do. I don't mind getting up and admitting that 2 months ago I was exercising for a couple of hours in the morning.
Too much for someone.
To me, the signal of when I have gone overboard with that. I've been overweight in my life and I don't want to go there.
She never wants to be there again.
But I think the thing is the compulsiveness of it. When I found myself packing barbells in my suitcases, I knew I'd crossed the line.
Can't go out of town for a weekend without
when
your
children,
equipment.
Your grandchildren have something planned for early in the morning and you're hesitant to go because it will interfere with
your exercise.
I'm a great list maker and I have little charts that I mark off. And it's like, okay, when marking off that chart becomes more important than, come sit down here by me and, no, it's the compulsiveness of it that is the scare. A lot of endorphins are created by exercise, and there's nothing wrong with feeling happy, but
becoming dependent on those endorphins.
If it becomes obsessive, and besides, I have seen women exercise, women who teach dance classes and different things, extremely difficult to get pregnant. It's one of the leading causes in our society today for women's infertility. Is the fact that I don't know if it affects the nutrition. I don't know. But that is something that as a fertility counselor, I have seen way too much of. If they're not balanced enough for a pregnancy, then I don't care. At 67, I can't exercise that much and stay reasonably balanced either. So
no, exercise is good, but
it's a good thing, but that compulsive thing, that obsessive idea. So
the blog is a little over 13,000 words, and it is broken out by eating disorder, and it talks about the causes and the effects and the things to watch for. And then the whole bottom half is solutions, and the solutions are also broken out by anorexia, bulimia, but they all apply. And so that is where there's an index at the top of the blog, which is clickable, and using that, you don't need to read the entire blog. We've kind of given you a summary of it, but I would read the parts that apply to you multiple times.
Good, yes.
So we're going to start first by talking about behavioral modification therapies. The things that need to change first, like cognitive behavioral therapy is one of them, and that helps the patient identify and replace the distorted thinking with actual thoughts. So get them to talk about, this is what I think, and when I think that, I'm going to give myself this different positive affirmation, and I'm going to say this in my mind, and eventually they start to believe that. So replacing the thoughts that are sending them down the rails.
I found having teenagers journal
Writing
a
is
journal
great
that's
one.
with them, so that it's an obsessive compulsive thing. Some of these disorders, anorexia is not so much, but if they can acknowledge the emotion they were feeling just before the binge eating,
Yep,
or
that's
just
huge.
before, and then you have some place to start with energy work. Even if you end up with psychiatric, with treatment at a therapist, there's some place to start if they acknowledge the emotion that is
The
driving
trigger.
whatever why the obsessive exercise, even, what is it, what emotion drives that. I could tell you what it is for me, but that's more than I want you to know.
No thanks.
So
And it's also
none of your
important
business.
for it to be family based. So while you're not trying to label the kid with a disorder, everyone in the family needs to be involved in, okay, maybe we need to work on making sure that this child or that child gets enough calcium. So will you help me keep track of how much milk she's having or how much cheese? And then other family members can suggest, hey, you could put a piece of cheese on that, or would you like, or try
I found
this.
assigning the
it's
child with the
important.
problem to watch a different child is a very effective way for
Yep.
them to keep track of what everybody's eating. Yeah,
So
it kinda
making
works
it a
good.
family thing without making it a big deal is a great resource.
There's one here, nutritional counseling.
That's often necessary.
Well, but I found it to be the least effective.
Really?
I don't know if you remember. Maybe you weren't old
Well, I
enough.
guess my
but
nutritional counseling's always been with you. That would be effective.
we had a little family member that got into a crazy mode at one point, and he would take dried beans and grind them up in my Vitamix, and then he would stir them into water, and that was the only thing he would drink.
Beans
And
water.
we literally, there's a lot of protein
There's a
there,
lot
but
of
there's a
protein there.
lot of things that are there too.
Well, and they need to be cooked in order to not anyway.
Well,
it's hard to
there's
digest.
There's
raw
no greens.
beans.
There's no. Anyway, it got kind of bad. It got health threatening bad, and we would make up diet plans. We studied. We read together. I mean, we did the nutritional counseling up the ends of the earth, and go along well for a couple 3 weeks, and then he would turn right around and return to it. Eventually, there was a serious thing that disabled him temporarily, and he had to eat what I fed him because it was the only thing he could do. And I think we turned around some nutritional deficiencies that were driving it, and it just disappeared as quickly as it came. But I have found nutritional counseling, there's a driver. It's not that they don't understand. It's a compulsion driven by one of those many emotional drivers that we had, or driven by a nutritional deficiency. I found, it's nice that they understand. I mean, he has a great understanding now as an adult of what his kids need to eat because he understands nutrition. But it did nothing for the situation of, and it's odd for, usually eating disorders are predominantly women, far and away. But some of the scariest ones I have seen have been men. So, anyway.
Energy work is a great way to tackle some of these triggers and some of the emotions behind
That's
it.
where I've had the most success.
We teach a Chrysalis course that takes about a year to get through.
That's 6 months. 6
Is it 6 months? And
Yeah,
it starts again in August. And that's a great way to do it. People who have taken that class or do even other energy modalities and techniques, there's a list of them on the butterflyexpressions.org website under professionals and then under energy work. And it's broken out by state and by city. And so if you are looking for someone that can help you do this without actually having to take the classes yourself, but taking the classes yourself, it helps in so many other areas. It can be a great way to help your family. But whichever way works better for you, if energy work is part of the picture for you to beat this, that's where you find those resources.
That's where I've had the most success. So.
Yep.
12-step programs.
There are 12-step programs that will help with eating disorders. If you're going to do that, the ones that are Christ-centered and Christian-based, far and away,
this one-on-one relationship with a caring mentor, this accountability to heaven and to a mentor, empathetic peers who've been where you've been, these have been good helps too.
Okay, so alternative remedies. The very first and most important thing is that you've got to make sure they're getting enough B vitamins and zinc. Zinc is a huge one.
So where are B vitamins found?
Chocolate.
Some, but your best source is whole wheat.
Whole wheat is a great source of B vitamins.
And if you're eliminating those from your diet, you are going to be B vitamin deficient. Yep. And part of the problem is that B vitamin supplements are, for the most part, pretty much worthless.
They're hard to absorb.
And in the wrong percentages, I've never had good luck supplementing B vitamins.
And we do have issues in the world with all of our wheat's been sprayed with chemicals, and those chemicals are making us sick. And so it is a trick to find
Yes, my husband's busily up there on the hill planting
decent
wheat seed that he stored 25 years ago.
So,
and it grew last year in the small patches, and it's coming up beautifully out there now. I'm so excited.
I've been
decent wheat
making
around here.
bread with the wheat that he grew last year, and it's good bread.
Well, and it's not had any GMO tampering with it. It's not been,
But if you can find a good
one limited farmer, small fields, I mean,
organic source of grain and make your own bread, there's some amazing nutritional benefits to that. And it surprised me how easy it was. I can make 4 loaves of bread on Sunday afternoon while doing other things, and my total time into it is less than half an hour.
We were playing games as a family, and she drug her 2 kids over there, and they all kept their hands of their cards going and made 4 loaves of bread.
And I freeze 3 of them, and we get them out throughout the week. And I'm starting to think maybe 4 loaves of bread's not going to be enough.
Well, especially when you bring your dad 1 or 2 every week.
So,
yeah, I want to mention here, and it's not in the blog anywhere, but I did a food storage course many years ago, and I did it much differently than they were expecting, because what I did was brought samples of food storage items like rice pudding made with rice and milk and salt and honey without any spices in it. No nutmeg, no cinnamon. It was nasty. Anyway, I brought 8 or 10 foods made just out of food storage, and then I taught them where the vitamins and nutrients, your minerals are found in your spices. And you're not going to live very long unless you have stored spices. It will make your food palatable. It will also give you nutrients. So,
and learn to cook with spices. Add spices to your eggs.
Even if you live out of boxes, and add a few other spices.
And you'll increase your nutrition quite a bit.
My spice cupboard is huge.
Scary.
And there's a lot of spices in there, and I actually use them.
But the trick too with spices is not let them get really old. If you've got spices in your cupboard that are 10 years old, throw them out and buy new ones. They're not that expensive. And the nutritional value, I have a spice blend that I throw on my eggs that has 7 or 8 different things in it, and I sprinkle it heavy because of the nutritional value, but I don't let it get old.
Light and air are what kill a spice.
Yep.
But I have found even my old spices, like I pulled a cayenne pepper that had been in somebody else's cupboard for 10 years and mine for a year, and I poured it on a major cut, and it stopped it cold. I mean, if they're stored in the right containers in a closed cupboard, they will maintain that.
And when they've lost nutritional value because you open and they don't hit your olfactory sense. Yeah. The stronger the smell, the better.
If they have no aroma, they're dead.
Okay. So essential oils. Really quick, benediction is a great one for
susceptibility to other people's bad moods.
Yeah. Well, and benediction's a great one for the person trying to help the person with the eating disorder.
Oh, by all
means.
And
so it's a great one to diffuse for all involved. It's very hard to watch somebody suffer with that, and even though you're helping them, sometimes
I found
you feel pretty helpless.
Nutritional counseling or fertility counseling or whatever, that after they left, my food craving, if I could go the first 20 minutes without binge eating chocolate, I could make it. I could rebalance. And when I got into oils and got into benediction, made the benediction, I just found that, and that's what I do. I'd walk out of there, dump that on me, or even during the session, I wouldn't have these cravings set up by other people depleting my energy.
Bountiful is a great one too, because it increases feelings of gratitude and generosity, but it helps them to just look around and see how much they do have. Instead of focusing on their eating disorder and the emotional drivers behind it, they can focus on the good.
We talk about bountiful for money, looking around. But
generosity,
when you're grateful for the things you eat, instead of concentrating on, I'm on this diet and I can't have that, it can change the food cravings incredibly. Yep. So,
Easy Trial is a great one for the digestive system. It promotes feelings of calmness and emotional strength. It is very much an emotional digestive blend. Not so much physical, like inside out, which is very much physical. I've eaten too much or I'm getting a stomach bug. So Easy Traveler is emotional.
Heart Song, mild depression, treatment of grief. Be surprised.
It's the number one depression blend, and depression it's brought on a lot of times by nutritional deficiencies, and so it's a symptom of almost every eating disorder. So Heart Song is definitely an oil for every eating disorder.
Oh, and just sometimes when we've lost something in our lives, and we're compensating with food, Heart Song will turn that around.
It helps you remember that other people do love you and you're still cherished. Yep. So Holiday Spirit, and this is typically a Christmas oil, but it's not. It's so much more. Holiday spirit can help you remind you of fond family members and events and those emotions related to that family, but it takes stress away. It's an enjoyable oil. So don't think about holiday spirit just for family and Christmas times all the time.
Think about it for anybody who dreads the upcoming of the holidays.
Yeah.
They'll tell you it's because they're so busy and because there's so much to do, but there may be a lot of other drivers besides that.
Stresses.
And most of those drivers will trigger overeating if you don't watch them closely.
My holiday spirit comes out before Thanksgiving. So.
Absolutely.
Julia is another digestive oil, but this one focuses a lot for children because it takes in a lot of fear and anxiety, and if they're just holding on too much to their emotions. So Julia is a great one for eating disorders.
Anyone that holds their stress in their abdomen, Julia's consideration. So.
Millennia is, that chiropractor in a bottle, but it's also that oil of courage, and so
self-expression
and it helps align things. It aligns physical structures, but it can also align emotional ones and energy. So it's just a good one.
When in doubt, I always reach for Millennia. It's probably going to hit the problem emotionally or physically.
It helps with self-expression and fear of conflict or disagreement, inability to make decisions. It hits so many emotional things that
lack of self-esteem. It's
a good one.
Yep.
So then there's a couple of our citrusy ones. Purify is citrus, but also has some lavender in it.
So why citrus? Grapefruit is the number one oil for treatment of eating disorders. Grapefruit is incredible. So anything with grapefruit in it is going to be something to consider.
And we don't advocate the ingestion of oils, but grapefruit is one that I will put one drop in like my 5-gallon thing of water that sits on my counter, and all my water will taste like grapefruit. Nobody seems to mind it, and it does.
Just please don't do what I did one day.
Oh dear.
I was bad at some cellulite when I was losing weight, and I don't know how much onto a wet washcloth and applied it across my abdomen, and I'll tell you it burned for 2 days.
Much. It does help dissolve
hot water opening of the pores.
A little is good. A little bit.
Don't be doing that.
Sunburst is the other citrus oil, and the citrus oils, they're just happy oils, and so they tend to help a lot with eating disorders. They promote a sense of well-being and contentment. I really love citrus oils. I'm a floral person. Floral oils are my oils, but I like citrus.
And I like things like the woods, but I love the citruses too. I love citrus.
Everybody loves citrus oils. Just picture yourself smelling lime right now.
Lime with a little ginger.
There you go. Or a little vanilla.
I love that. Ooh, yes. That got me there.
Yeah, lime is probably one of my favorites. I really like grapefruit. And Butterfly actually sells two. I love the pink one. That pink grapefruit is just
pink. Pink has a little
just tart. I just love it. Yeah. Anyway, okay, Tranquility, and this one's in here because it a lot of times the eating disorder will create nutritional deficiencies. Nutritional deficiencies set you up for anxiety, and Tranquility is the number one oil for anxiety.
You kind of use it like I'm going to describe to you with Weightless here. The next one. You maybe don't even remember, but when we created Weightless, I was trying to lose weight. And you said, here, Mom, put it on top of the fridge. And when you go to get something to eat, take down the bottle and take a whiff and then walk away. Tell yourself you can have whatever it is you want in 10 minutes
or 10 minutes.
And I found that the Weightless turned the emotional craving around. I would go walk away and get busy. So just for fun, after about a week of that, I thought, okay, I will just walk up to the fridge and I won't smell the Weightless. I will just tell myself 5 minutes. And see if I can do the 5 or 10 minutes. It was much more difficult. The Weightless actually quelled whatever the emotional craving was. So then I got out my little notebook like I recommended and started, okay, now when I'm headed for the fridge, let's think about what happened in the last 3 minutes that triggered whatever that craving was. It was a very educational experience and it worked. So
yeah. I wanted to I'm going to throw a plug in here for somebody else, but I've been traveling around doing shows and teaching classes at expos, which I haven't done for a long time. It's been really fun. I'm enjoying it. But I met a lady a few shows ago named Shelly Joe, and she does amino acids, and she convinced me to take one for just tired. I figured, I'd earned my tired. I had worked my butt off to get the show set up, and then I'd worked it for 2 days, and I'd earned my tired. But she says, just take this and see if it doesn't, come tell me how you feel in 15 minutes. And so I filled this little paper about how tired I was, and I took the amino acid, and 20 minutes later, I filled out the same paper, and I felt so much better. I actually purchased it. And then the next time I seen her, the next show, I says, I'm loving that. And she goes, well, what else in your life? And I says, I crave chocolate like nobody else's business. And she had an amino acid for cravings. And wow, I tell you what, I take it in the morning, and my chocolate consumption has dropped.
And so the next show that we worked together, I went a little nuts and bought a bunch of them, and I've been having a good time.
I'm just taking 3. She's also got one that helps you sleep at night, and I am one of those people who doesn't require a lot of sleep. I can go on 6 hours of sleep indefinitely. At least I could as a teenager. 8 hours has become my normal.
Yeah,
but since I started taking these amino acids, I'm up after 6 hours and I feel better. I wear a watch that keeps track of my stuff, and my sleep quality has gone from the low 80s to the high 90s.
Checked mine since I went on these.
So I sleep better when I take them.
I can tell you the difference for me. I still sleep the same 5 or 6 hours. I don't ever need any more than that. But the difference is that I wake up in the morning and realize I have not woke up once throughout the night.
Throughout the night, you've actually
which for
slept.
Me is, I usually watch the clock go around every 45 minutes or so.
And they're not expensive. I think they're $25 for a 3-month supply for one of them.
I think it's going to make life-changing differences.
I'm going to wish I knew where they can buy them. I wasn't planning on talking about them. So her name is Shelly Joe, and if you search Shelly Joe amino acids, I'm sure
I have her contact information on my desk. Yeah,
if
you're not in this building,
if you want to comment, but she's pretty easy to find, I think, on the internet. She'll be at the show with me on Salt Lake in 3 weeks.
I have no idea.
3 weeks, 3rd week of June down at Salt Palace.
Helping, you better tell me when.
Well, I don't think I was. So,
okay.
All right. Whispering Hope we talked about. No, we didn't. We talked about Weightless. Yeah. Whispering Hope. So Whispering Hope, it just whispers those hopes, a feeling, a sense.
I love that.
Self-worth and potential achievement. It's a great oil for discouragement. I really like this one for kids. And if you give it to them in a little sample bottle in their pocket, they know when they're starting to feel bad. And it's amazing how they'll be like, that's my little friend in my pocket. Yeah. They recognize so quickly how that makes me feel better.
It's surprising. And when you do that with a child, I gave a little girl a little purse once with a little smiley face on it and a rescue remedy in it, and put her in charge of controlling her temper. She was less than 4. And it was amazing. The responsibility of being part of her own, it was, she didn't really, I had to tell her, now, if you think that what you're about to do is going to make mommy mad, then you're angry, because she didn't seem to recognize anger as it came on. So it was a fascinating
There are some single essential oils that fit into this category. We'll cover them really quick. Angelica is one. It's called the oil of angels, and it's really good for lessening the power of traumatic memories. If traumatic memories are controlling them, Angelica is a great one. There's a blend angel too that's wonderful, and it has Angelica in it. So there's some other ones. Bergamot is a great one. If they have fluctuations in appetite, sometimes they're just not hungry or they're hungry all the time. It helps balance out that.
Bergamot's an oil for anger.
It's an oil for anger. Cinnamon
is about courage.
And cinnamon's a spice oil, which here again, it's minerals.
And cinnamon, do minerals absorb? I don't know, but I can tell you with cinnamon, the courage that it seems to bring for me is the courage to look at and analyze my own behavior. It's like, okay, I can stop blaming the world for this and figure out what it is, what's triggering this in me.
Yep. Coriander is a great one for balancing glucose levels. Oil. It's great for flatulence and stomach cramps. Stomach cramps respond to coriander a lot of times, so especially with anorexia.
The number one treatment, if you look on sites, even like St. Luke's Hospital, medical sites that are starting to take a look at essential oil. Coriander is the number one oil listed. It's recognized even in the medical world as for anorexia particularly.
Any of your furs and balsams are going to be great for addressing generational issues. If eating disorders run in your family, your furs and your balsams are very grounding. Those are the ones you're going to want to look at. So
ginger, I like ginger with lime.
Ginger's a good
Someday
one for
I'm going to make you
loss of appetite. It's actually one of the amazing oils. But yeah, she mixes ginger with lime, and you get
it's an interesting mix.
Quite a combination for emotions.
A lot of lime, a little ginger. No.
A lot of lime, a little ginger. That's right. Ginger's
emotional
very,
impact.
Very strong.
It's just burning away illusions, misperceptions, where you're, parting company with reality. I love ginger.
We talked about grapefruit, but we didn't cover the fact that it's really good for people who are tense or under enormous amounts of pressure, and they eat as a way of relieving the stress. So that's a great one. Time to grab grapefruit.
Yep. Okay.
We kind of talked about lavender. Lavender's grandmother oil. It's used for everything. Same thing with.
I love lemon. Somebody asked me once, what are you trying to do? Oh, sorry. Go back to lavender.
Because
we're interrupting each other more than usual today.
Yes, we are. Lavender covers a lot of emotions, and so it can be a great time, especially if the eating disorder is brought on by changes in life. Major changes like getting married or divorced or having kids, or just as life situation, change of season of life. Yep, it's just a good one. So
lemon. Someone asked me once, how come I put lemon in all of my blends? Are you trying to,
stabilize?
Lemon's an inexpensive oil. Why do I do that? It's because I happen to like the emotional pattern of lemon. It's clarity of thought. It's making the connection between cause and effect in your life. It's just my very, very favorite light oil for the last thing in a blend.
It gives humor to stressful situations.
Humor, yeah.
Yep, sense of humor.
I love lemon. So
mandarin is in that same citrus family, but it is a good one for wanting things that you don't have. Note, yeah. And as soon as you get those things, then you just find something else to want, because you just have to want what you don't have. Mandarin is a great oil for that.
Yes, it is.
So marjoram's a great one for excessive worry, and it's particularly useful when your negative thoughts circle repetitively in your mind
especially when you're trying to sleep.
Yeah, so marjoram fits that one. Neroli, which is the flower in the orange family, but it's calming and relaxing. It's an oil of confidence too. So, and it helps with nervous tension. So,
and orange is just plain the best emotional citrus in the world. Yeah. It's just way up there, but it colors blends differently than lemon does. I can sneak lemon into a blend and have the aroma of the wood still there, whereas orange will kind of hide that.
Orange is a good one when you just expect unrealistic expectations of yourself and of others. So, all right, herbal remedies, and I don't know how much time to take and spend here.
We've been about an hour,
because herbal remedies they carry the nutrition, and there's always nutritional deficiency with them, and so
I mentioned bee pollen here.
Yeah, that one.
And the reason for that is when I was very young, I had multiple allergies, and if I would start taking bee pollen right after Christmas, come spring, I could handle gathering herbs in the wild. I could mow my lawn. I could be outside in Clifton where the wind blows nearly all the time. It didn't eliminate my food allergies per se, but it eliminated a lot of allergies, allowed me to start to get a handle on it. So brewer's yeast is another excellent source of B vitamins if you can't get over your fear of whole wheat bread.
Just stir it into a glass of milk.
My grandmother, bless her, who lived next door to me, every time mother would send her a plate of food over, or whatever reason, she would stir brewer's yeast into milk, and my little sisters got very good at dumping it onto the flower beds out front.
Just drink it.
But I drank it, and I'm the only one, my sisters, that had decent reproductive health, I had better health in a lot of ways, and I've always been grateful for that. When I studied B vitamins and the sources that they exist in, that was probably one of the greatest things my grandmother did for me, was stick B vitamins down me every time she saw me.
So we talked at the very beginning about checking BMI, your body mass index, and if your body mass index is low and you're trying to bring that up, zinc is a great way to increase that very quickly. There's a whole list of herbs that contain zinc. You can also get zinc as a liquid mineral.
I spent some time, and really sad, I spent a lot of time researching what herbs contain what vitamins and minerals, only to discover 3 weeks ago that one of my favorite herb books ever, right up at the top in one little space under the name of each herb, listed that for me.
So that will be included in the next printing of the herb book.
It's actually in the last printing. There's a 3 or 4 page chart.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's a chart. It's towards the front, page 45, 46, somewhere right around in there. Anyway, it was a year's worth of work researching which herbs contain which minerals. And what I learned from that is, I knew it before, but then I had it right in my face, proven. Kelp, nettles, and alfalfa between them contain most every vitamin, mineral, and that you could possibly want.
K and A.
Yep.
Tincture or as in tea.
So if you could only get one thing down your children.
That's one I try to do as a tincture, because
I do that faithfully. Yeah.
Doing that one as a tea is a little bit difficult. Kelp
it's nasty.
is a seaweed, and it tastes like
a seaweed.
Not in the tincture form. It's much easier to hide it with juice or water. And
so anyway, back to your zinc thing that I interrupted.
Well, we covered zinc, but to get it from herbal sources, there is a list in the blog of all the different herbs that might contain zinc, or you can do the liquid zinc. Iron decreases or even reverses pica in patients with clinical symptoms.
Yeah, iron
So
deficiency is
iron
often
is
a
huge
driver.
for pica, and there's a list in the blog of all of the herbs that contain iron. Whole wheat bread is a great source of iron. Molasses is an amazing source of iron, and then there is a whole list of herbs that contain
And
iron.
every one of these lists begins with the word alfalfa.
Yep.
Okay. Yep, alfalfa is a superfood, but problem we have is in America today, everybody sprays their fields until you got to be really careful of your source of alfalfa.
Yeah. Potassium is linked to the deficiency of other minerals. If you're not getting enough potassium, you will go deficient in other minerals. Potassium is in every single fruit and every single vegetable. So if you're eating your servings of fruits and vegetables, you should be okay on potassium. But if you're not, if you're eating processed foods, you're eating out of a box, you might be potassium deficient, and it might be setting you up for all these other deficiencies.
Other deficiency you can imagine.
So, potassium, it's huge, it's important. And again, there's a list in the blog of herbs that contain potassium. Okay, and alfalfa is the first one. What a shocker. Okay, one of the first things that happens when you become nutritionally deficient is that the nerves are starved. And that's why we start to do things like
calcium.
Yep. Well, I was thinking the emotional ones. You start to be irritable, you start to do anxiety, you start to do depression. And so any of the Nervine formulas done by Butterfly would be good. There are several because different people handle different herbs better. So there's a Nervine formula, there's a Nervine for children, there's a Nervine special, and it's a matter of finding out which one works best for you.
The NT is mild enough for just about anybody. I've not had anybody.
And BBL works well for almost everyone.
Almost everybody. So.
In fact,
the Nervine, the NVC, the one for children, is very effective for adults. Yep. The NV itself, the big guns, every once in a while you'll find a person who doesn't do well with a Nervine herb, and it will be in that one. Yep. But it's the big guns if you need it. Okay.
Yep. There is a formula called BHM, which is called Bone High Mineral. This one contains an incredible amount of minerals. It's amazing with calcium, and it really helps heal bones. It's a great one for osteoporosis, arthritis. Catch is it's really nasty.
Yes, it is.
It's extremely bitter. I would start with things like K&A and Min, and I would do other things. I have had BHM test up for me a few times, and you can hide it in grape juice.
And the interesting thing to me about BHM, Dr. Christopher had an old formula called anti-plague, and the only thing different about anti-plague than BHM is the addition of garlic and more vitamin C, more rose hips. And I thought, okay, what heals physical tissue also fights disease and also settles the nerves. I mean, nutrition is key to good health.
And it's often the key to fixing eating disorders. So there are a few herbs that are extremely high in nutrients. Fenugreek is one of those. It contains potassium, iron, calcium, selenium, copper, zinc, manganese, magnesium, folic acid,
vitamin B6, vitamin C, vitamin A. There it all is.
It's huge. So fenugreek is awesome. There's one called Galangal, and it's a bitter.
Oh, but it's a bitter.
But it's amazing at promoting digestion and stimulating the appetite and the production of digestive fluids. If your digestive system isn't working properly, it's not absorbing the nutrients. So even though you're taking them or eating them, you're not actually absorbing them. And Galangal can turn that around.
Please avoid this one, however, if you have stomach ulcers.
Yes.
Okay, it is contraindicated for stomach ulcers.
Okay, now we have to cover some homeopathics.
I don't want to do that too much one by one because it's so homeopathics are so person specific and so emotionally specific that by giving you a list here, you need to pick one that matches the particular person. Lycopodium, excessive hunger, eating very rapidly, that is kind of the things that it's keynote there. So you just have to kind of take them one by one. Although lactominum and lycopodium are kind of what they call a polycrest. They'll benefit most people while you're figuring out what might be more specifically better.
So those two are mentioned in the blog first, and then there's a section that's remedies that are specific for anorexia. What you'd want to do is read all of the remedies for anorexia and pick the one that fits you and your emotional patterns the best. And then after that, there'll be a section of remedies that are specific for bulimia
for each one.
And so
this is where I spent several weeks.
We're not going to cover all of them.
Great big repertory matching remedies with symptoms, because repertizing can be time consuming.
Yep.
And it's daunting unless you've done it a lifetime like I have. I had a good time, actually.
So the first thing would be to figure out which one of the eating disorders you're fighting with, and then come down and read the remedy specific to that.
So I want to look at one of them under bulimia, though.
Okay.
It's called carcinosin. It's listed with anorexia. It's listed in several places,
Yep.
but it is also, it links these things to cancer, is what it does.
Yep.
And benefit from it, those who crave chocolate or sweets or sugar,
sugars.
people that are super driven to always succeed, always get more done. They crave spicy foods. And the odd thing is they crave foods that make them feel nauseous and sick. So carcinosin is one to consider with every eating disorder.
Yeah, we probably should have put it up higher.
Probably should have been right up there with those first two.
Those first two.
You can move it.
We will put this blog out in just a few minutes, and you'll have it for notes. Please comment where you were if you watched this blog at all, what state you're in. We'd like to just get an idea of where our viewers are at, and comment anything else you'd like to us too. We will be back in a couple of weeks, and we will be talking about restless leg syndrome, I believe.
Do I get the idea that you're thinking we're done?
Yeah.
No, we're not. Rolled out. No.
I thought we were done.
We cannot leave till we talk about Bach flowers.
Oh,
okay.
I do remember that.
There is a whole section here. I did the same thing with the Bach flowers that I did with the constitutional level ones, is I went through and tried to identify for you which ones of the Bach flowers. And I have Sierra light ones. I have Australian one. I have a lot. I stuck pretty much to the 36 basic box.
And she
just
does
to make it easy.
I mean, there's a few like walnut and agrimony and California rose, chamomile. There's a few that fit every single eating disorder, and then there are a few like she's broken out by specific to anorexia.
I love the one you got to go with pretty face.
Pretty face.
Okay? That's perfect name. Seeing oneself as ugly or not good enough, pretty face. I love
perceiving
that one.
oneself as either too thin or too fat. It's all about perception.
Fairy lantern, patterns of immaturity and helplessness.
But that fits.
Love some of them.
That fits anorexia. It fits bulimia. It also fits binge eating. So that one is up in the top section.
Yeah.
And then there'll be ones that are specific for anorexia and specific for bulimia and specific for pica. So make sure that you check out those two sections.
These eating disorders have emotional drivers.
They do.
And with these Bach flowers, I mean, the guy who found them and created them the first time said it best, treat people for their emotional unhappiness, allow them to be happy, and they will become well.
Yep.
And to me, that just sums it up. Bach flowers are an essential part of working with eating disorders. And that's a fairly short section. So
and the nice thing about
you
Bach
will recognize
flowers
yourself or your children quite easily
in them. And Bach flowers, they're cheap.
Yeah, they are.
And the changes that they bring about are absolutely amazing.
If you only ever have the basic 36, I got by with those for 20 years with just the basic 36. Yep. You don't have to go hog wild like I tend to do. So.
All right. Well, we are grateful that we have herbs and blessed waters and essential oils, and they have been blessings to us. We hope that they will bless you and your family. And we hope that this blog is useful to you. Again, you can find the blog at butterflyexpressions.net. We hope that you've enjoyed our broadcast.